Hello friends, let's talk about the water governance under the edges of chemical process utilities. Now if you recall that we have covered about the treatment methodology of boiler water, in which we discussed about the internal water treatment, we discussed about the external water treatment and the concept of de-aeration. And we discussed about the entire concept in detail, that what is the efficacy of all these water treatment protocols. Now in this particular lecture we will discuss about the various governing laws pertaining to water. We will discuss about various tasks to be taken for the water governance. What are the different challenges associated with the water governance. We will discuss about the hierarchical governance concept. Apart from this, we will discuss about the cross curing and water governance in India. Now development of science, if you see that, and technology, and especially in the flow of information to the common people, this is catalyzed the demand of a systematic and controlled management of water, because day by day the awareness about the water conservation, water reuse, water balancing is growing day by day, and especially the all part of society, they are tutored by all these concepts. Similarly, in almost all countries, some sort of water governance has emerged, either for equitable management or to monopolize the resources of some vested interest. Because see, we discussed that every drop of water counts with respect to the economy, with respect to the environment, and then there is some concept pertaining to the water governance. Now efforts to develop a model for good water governance has led to the realization that one single universally applicable model which can cover all scenarios is not at all feasible. Each country must formulate its own water governance policy to ensure the feasibility. Now let's talk about the water governance. Usually what is the concept of water governance? Now the water governance is defined as an administrative cum political instrument to regulate the withdrawal, use and disposal of water without causing any serious adverse effect on ecosystem. Again, to maintain a balance of interest among the stakeholder in the system. Now you see that in India there are several states where the boring of water is banned, just because to develop the ecosystem. Similarly, there are so many political issues pertaining to the distribution of water from river as well as canals. So all these things, they are an indicator that how important is the proper water governance, and there are so many water commissions has been established in Indian context. So therefore, a water governance framework oversees how fresh water from different source is exploited, managed and cared for by the different users, such as the manufacturing sector, agricultural sector, society at large. So that we must have a proper optimization among its uses, among all different segments of the society and day-to-day life. Now the water governance machinery, this prioritizes the water allocation so that essential sector, they do not suffer from water uncertainty, because the source of waters are limited, maybe surface water, maybe groundwater. So all these things are limited, and above all the potable water supply is again very uncertain and you can say depleting day by day. So a water framework may be defined as a framework for the protection of all waters, including rivers, lakes, different type of coastal waters and groundwaters and their dependent wildlife habitats under one place of environmental legislation. Now in India, the first draft on water policy was released in 1972, which was modified several times and was later replaced by the National Water Framework Act 2012, based on the National Water Policy 2012. The domain of water policy covers water management in river basin, flood management, water transport, withdrawal uses, water supply, pollution, ecosystem management and sanitation. So all these aspects and perspective of water uses has been covered in this particular domain of water policy. Now this also covers the government level activities that may include the formulation and implementation of interrelated policy instruments for the management and development of water resource system, It covers both directives like top down and implementation at bottom down activities. It includes the transfer, development and implication of governance principles and policies for water resource management and development. Now, formulation of structures, what kind of the different policies needed for different part of society, what kind of the goal we need to set up, and provisioning funds for organizations, because there are so many organizations which deals with the water management, water balancing, reuse, recycling, water conservation, recharging, all these things. So how they can get fund? So all these things are covered under these water policy. Then the preparation of government policy in deal with the international water policies, research, education and capacity building with respect to the water governance. Now let's talk about the different water laws. Now these laws are based on the principles. Now water governance is backed by the responsible stakeholders, pressure groups like various NGOs, administrative department of the government, and user group like farmers and private sectors. Politicians also often take initiatives, but it can sometimes aim to benefit of a specific region and community. You see, there are different type of agitations being promoted by various part of the societies, and different states, they are having non-harmonious relations just because of the water. And sometimes when learned scientist says that the third world war will be based on the water supply. Now, the framing the water law in a country is a very complex and tedious matter, as it has to deal with the local customs, values and the prevailing rights. Now, the fundamental basis of water laws are: the constitution of a country should have a provision for law, and if such provision exists, the law should be consistent with the constitution. Water law will actively promote the values of waters and uphold the human rights, because it's a fundamental, you can say, right to have a potable or good quality water. Law should demolish the concept of ownership of water and establish the right to water. And all water, wherever it occurs, is a resource common to all, and the use of it should be controlled by the government through appropriate authority. The relation between ownership of land and the right to water should be well defined by the law. The law should recognize the uniqueness of all water sources and their interdependence and connection with the elements of water cycle. And the law should provide a scope of scientific data generation, sharing data with the public, and formation of water research institutions. Now let's talk about the task of water governance. Now the first task is catering to human needs, because without water no civilization can survive. So human needs are considered as a prime and diverse. Apart from the daily water need for drinking, cooking, washing, day-to-day needs, there are other needs like irrigation, landscaping, recreational and religious uses. Apart from this, we cannot overlook the importance of manufacturing aspect or a manufacturing sector, where we need to manufacture the different type of goods. Now to cater all these needs, people have to regulate certain things like flow of water by the quantity and direction in different streams, water reserves in aquifer and surface water bodies, and the amount of flow finally required for the environment. Regulation of groundwater withdrawal is a major component of water governance in many countries. A good example for such law is the Groundwater Regulation Act of different states in India. Now second task is the maintaining the water quality, because you see that 97% of earth area is submerged with the seawater, but you cannot use it. So because of the quality of the water, as well as you are having the river water, and after the use you cannot discharge it as such because of the quality aspect. So regulation is required to the maintain water quality, so that discharges from the industries and irrigation overflow do not contaminate surface water bodies, groundwater and stream or the marine environment. Many countries have developed pollution control acts and laws to protect the quality of effluent water. Like in United States, Environment Protection Agency is a very good example of institutional governance on the quality of water in United States of America. Now, third task is regulating changes in the land use. Industry and agriculture play a crucial role in distribution of water, quality of water. Now, regulation is required in this sector to avoid any kind of contamination and conflict. In many countries, land use boards, urban development authorities, municipal authorities and the land development boards are formed, who often act as a regulatory body for water resources in the urban context or work collaterally with other regulatory bodies. Another task, that is number 4, that is to regulate the environmental demand and impacts, because when we talk about the manufacturing sector, there are so many aspects related to the effluent water and that may contaminate the environment or ecosystem. So, the environment provides us with a number of ecosystem services. Now, to ensure the proper delivery of such services, a regulatory framework is required and that will assess the health of ecosystem and guide human behavior towards the sustainability, impose condition on industrial and urban operation and enforce law to keep the ecosystem functioning. Now, there are several acts in many countries like Wetland Protection Acts, Coastal Zone Regulation Acts and so on, that looks after the functioning of the ecosystem. Now, when we talk about the challenges in water governance, so there are various challenges attributed like resource distribution and use. Now, the measures is to frame the guideline and methods on water allocation for every sector in accordance with the local and national priorities. Then water pricing. As far as the industrial aspect is in question, we have already discussed that we need a certain quantity and certain quality of the water, and for this we need to go for water conditioning. Similarly, if we take the water from either surface water in terms of surface water or in terms of groundwater, to extract the water we need to pay certain things. Therefore, the measure is to regulate the pricing of water so that water is affordable to everyone. Then water allocation. The measure is to formulate allocation plans on a common platform including government agencies, scientists, various kind of corporations and civil societies representing the people, especially the marginal people. Another challenge is attributed to the management at river basin level. Now, this particular aspect deals with the natural boundary of an ecosystem unit. At this scale, a river basin authority is the agency formed to regulate and manage water at river basin level. Then you have to maintain the ecosystem services. Now, the major aspect of this particular thing is that to determine the carrying capacity of an ecosystem to ensure sustainability, and that is maintain environmental flow. Then after the use, we need to control the pollution and maintain the water quality. Now, controlling water pollution by industry, agriculture and urban centers through sector specific guidelines, that is the important measure for this particular task. Then we need another challenge is attributed to the land use management. That means the regulating land use changes due to urbanization and neo-colonial activities to ensure balanced sharing of freshwater resources, and that is very important. Then the managing public and stakeholders demand and aspiration, because day by day as per the population increase and their expectation hike, we need to see the stakeholders demand and what are their aspirations. Then the basic measure is to motivate and educate the public and stakeholder and engage them in resource assessment and monitoring so that we can optimize their usage and aspiration. Then behavioral changes that impacts the use of water, that recovers the cost of water from the users and motivate them to pay for water. Another challenge is that international perspective and virtual water trade. Now, this way, the measure is to regulate the virtual water trade to reduce the internal stress on water resources. Another challenge is attributed to the adopting to future pressure. The long-term scenario analysis for the sustainability of modeling is the major task of this particular approach. Then as we are extracting water from the groundwater, then the groundwater level goes down, and that is attributed under the head of groundwater depletion. So one must need to prepare a proper guideline to ensure the aquifer recharging, and we always talk about the rainwater recharging, etc., and that is one of the aspects that why we are worried about this groundwater depletion. Now let us talk about the common outlook for water governance. A general overview of the water governance for different countries reveals that in almost all countries the governance work for framing and enforcing laws and regulatory norms for optimal use of water resources, because the water resources are depleting day by day. Then managing water through long-term plans, forming institutions like water boards and river basin authorities are very common. If you see that in Indian context, we are having various water commissions and water boards and river basin authorities. Then the coordinating different sectors of water use like drinking, agriculture, health, energy, and so on. Then the capacity building in the institutions and individual engaged in water management. Then one must need to maintain the integrity and transparency among the water governance aspect. One must need to delegate power to the local authorities, and that is under the edges of water governance. Then generate required temporal and spatial data related to water resource estimation. Formulate guidelines on water withdrawal and discharge, and if required then licensing system, and fix the water pricing. Let us talk about the hierarchical governance. Like boundaries, there are three different parallel hierarchical system in water governance: natural, administrative, and political. Now here you see that this is all these things like flow of water and small or micro basin, sub basin, and basin. So natural boundary, that is dependent on the hydrologically linked basin. Now here you see that river basin authorities, they are covered with the different type of aspect like national level, regional level, district level, local level, and the governmental authorities and administrative authorities. So this is the difference between the national and administrative boundaries. Now the natural boundary of a river basin or a water course has a natural hierarchical system in the river catchment. A natural hierarchy is the hierarchy of the river basin in which water in large river basin is aggregated as a bottom up system, because water from smaller basins flow into a larger basin. Now this basin hierarchy is in reverse order when it is institutionally administered by a river basin authority. The administrative hierarchy of water governance follows the administrative boundaries from the national level to the local level, and power flows from top to bottom through different stages of administration. Now in some central system, the authority of water governance is vested solely in the provincial government. In that case, the national authority only performs the task of framing guidelines, notifying overexploited areas, and so on. And in some cases, the absence of any provincial law or state law in a particular central state that implements the water law directly. Now for example, in Indian context, there is a national groundwater authority and state groundwater authorities in 11 out of 28 states so far. National authority functions in those states where state law is not present. Power sharing by political parties in water resource governance exists in a very rare instance like People's Republic of China, where the political authority at all levels shares power with administrative counterparts. Now there are cross-cutting authorities of water governance. So in any country, government department and agencies, local authorities are structured in such a way that the mandate and the issues are balanced. But water being everybody's business, several departments may claim authority on water resource. For example, the State Groundwater Board is empowered to issue the permit for groundwater withdrawal, but if the site is located on a large river basin for which a separate authority exists, the second authority will also have its own mandate to act on that particular issue. The Environment Department also has its role to play. In such cases, coordinated action is required to resolve the horizontal cross-cutting issues. Now, for example, in a location, there are three authorities of water governance: Water Resource Department, that is an authority; Environmental Department; River Basin Authority functioning under the Water Resource Department. So, these may be existing, and you may see that in case if any industry lies in between, then it needs to address all these things, maybe the River Basin Authority or Environment Authority, etc. So, if the industry is located under the jurisdiction of River Basin Authority, then it will have to comply with the norms of all three authorities. So, you need to look the overlap zone. Now, if it falls outside the jurisdiction of the River Basin Authority, that means this particular industry, it will have to satisfy the two department only. So, in the event that there are local authorities like industrial development boards, land reform department and urban development authorities, industry will have to follow their norms as well as. Now, let us talk about the water governance in India. Now, India has a central government structure and the country is divided into number of states and union territories. According to the Constitution of India, the states are responsible for the protection of water resources. Now, there are several federal acts that are meant to protect the environment and have been operational since 1897. Now, surface water belongs to a state and the right to extract the groundwater is attached to the land of ownership. And sometimes it is not even to the land ownership, because sometimes in some cities the government has banned to extract the groundwater. Now, here you see that there are a chronological order of various essential national acts, like in 1897 the Indian Fisheries Act was passed, in 1956 the River Board Act, in 1970 the Merchant Shipping Act, 1974 was dedicated to the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, in 1977 the Parliament has passed the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Act. In 1978, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Rules, and in 1991, the Coastal Regulation Zone Notification. Now, there are various ministries, those who are administering this these water law. One is the Environment Ministry or Ministry of Environment. This deals with the water pollution and water based ecology. Now, there is a Central Pollution Control Board under this ministry, and in every state there are state level pollution control boards. Then Ministry of Water Resource, Rural Development and Ganga Regeneration. Now, this ministry deals with all other aspects of surface and groundwater, including water allocation and guidelines on water. Now, there are various licensing authorities in India, and they are administering river boards, and we are having in Indian context various research and development institutions like licensing authorities, the Central Water Commission and Central Groundwater Board. There are various river boards like Upper Yamuna River Board, Tungabhadra Board, Brahmaputra Board, Betwa River Board, Bansagar Control Board, Sardar Sarovar Construction Advisory Committee, etc. Then R&D institutions like National Water Development Agency, National Institute of Hydrology, Central Water and Power Research Station, Central Soil and Material Research Station. So, these institutions, they are created for the water governance. Now, apart from this, in various states there are so many state departments attributed for the water governance, and most of the states in India have state departments dealing with the water. Water governance is generally entrusted to the State Department of Environment and Forest. State Groundwater, Water Resource Department and State Irrigation Department. Now these state departments are headed by the ministers and each department has the power to frame regulatory laws. Now water laws of any states are derived from the problem specific to the state only. Now there are various licensing authorities at the state level like State Irrigation Department, State Groundwater Board, State Groundwater Authorities, State Pollution Control Boards. Now though India has a well constituted administrative system down to the village level, that is called panchayat, and panchayats are not the water licensing authority. The district headquarter of which the village panchayat is the constituent part is supposed to be the licensing authority and the service is delivered through the empowered government institutions. Municipalities of some cities also regulate water abstraction and water discharge into environment in some metropolitan cities in India. After promulgation of state laws, municipal control over water is restricted to protection of urban wetlands, sewage discharge and industrial effluent discharge. Now let us talk about the water framework and draft bills. A committee led by Dr. Mihir Shah drafted the National Water Framework Bill 2016. The Ministry of Water Resource, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation established by the committee. The goal of drafting this bill was to preserve, manage, protect and control water consumption. Now when we talk about this water framework, there are various features of draft national water bill, that is right to water for life. Now every person has a right to a sufficient quantity of safe water. Every drinking water agency must comply with the manual of the Public Health and Environmental Engineering Organization. When we talk about the river rejuvenation, then it must have a concept of aviral dhara, maintenance of connectivity of flow in each river system, then Nirmal Dhara, making sure that the quality of river is not affected by the human activities, then Swachh Kinara, that is working on making river bank clean and aesthetic, then regenerating aquifers, there are an important source of river. Then another important feature is the protecting ecosystem dependent on water. Now the river shall be protected from the construction on their flood plains. River should be protected from sand mining. Then people centered water management is another feature of this particular bill. The concept is to focus on the groundwater and surface water conservation activities by people using rainwater harvesting technique, then watershed development and the participatory irrigation management. Another feature is that water use and land use. Now the focus is on the proper land use in appropriate areas, sustainable agricultural practices for optimum utilization of water uses. The treatment and use of wastewater is another feature of this particular bill. Now the main objective of this is to focus on promoting recycling and reusing wastewater. Then integrated river basin development and management. Now this is done to prevent the negative fallout of reduction in water table, drying up of rivers. Now any development activity will be undertaken only after taking into consideration the hydrological, ecological and agroclimatic conditions. The central government shall establish the River Basin Authority for every interstate river and valley. The River Basin Authority will work on the social, economic development, land use, rural, urban development. Then another feature is the project planning and management. The basic concept is to involve the panchayat, municipalities, corporation. They must involve in the planning and management of the projects. Then another feature is that planning for water security. The water security plan should be prepared to ensure water security at all times, even during times of emergencies like drought and floods. The incentive for switching to water intensive crops, the incentives for switching to the water conservation technologies such as drip irrigation and sprinklers. Work on setting up groundwater recharge structure and promote uses of energy efficient pumps. Water security plan that should be applicable for 5 years and it should be amended or revised every 5 years. Then water resource information system. The central government shall develop maintain the water resource information system. Satellite imageries will be used. The National Water Informatics Center must be established to regularly control the hydrological data all over the country. Then the promotion of innovation and knowledge management. The government shall promote the research and technology to address the issues in the water sector. There may be certain water conflicts among the various states. So, water conflicts, interstate water disputes. The institutional arrangement should be established to resolve various kind of interstate water disputes. Then industrial water under the draft bill. Now, this bill for the industry specific water rights, they are categorically outlined with the structure that industry are to take concrete step to reduce the water footprints. All industries using large volume of water must disclose their water footprint and include in their annual report information such as water utilization per unit of production, effluent discharge details, rainwater harvesting, water reuse detail and freshwater consumption. Now, in water short areas, industries can withdraw water to the extent of make up water requirement only and must recycle and reuse water, that is called the water balancing. Now, there is also provision for penalties for misuse and abuse of water by the industries. Now, at last in this particular chapter, we had discussed about the various governance pertaining to the water. We discussed about the various concepts, laws, different type of the regulatory structures, etc. For your reference, we have included one reference for further reading. Thank you very much.